Damn,
So-
you could make yourself look like a porn star in this.
Is
Sam, you should keep that for the show. Like it
Like
looks
this.
kind of looks real.
Like this.
you know who you look like? You ever watch Trailer Park Boys?
Yeah, like Ricky.
Yeah, you look like Ricky.
Hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show. This is our top 10 quarterback list.
Woo! Woo! Woo!
If you watched our previous video, we went 20 through 11. This is the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2024-2025 season. There is going to be some shocks on this list. I have it in front of me right now looking at it, and right away you're going to be a little surprised, but I don't hate it. I'm not gonna lie. I think that Jake's pretty on point here, and we'll hand it over to Jake himself. So
guys, we do everything here with objectivity, integrity, and fairness and equality. There's nothing on this list to get views. This is what we do. The 10th best quarterback in the NFL, Caleb Williams. He has not taken a snap in pro football. I do not care. He walks in as a top 10 quarterback. Number 9, Aaron Rodgers. Number 8, Jared Goff. Number 7, Matthew Stafford. Number 6, and just a little spoiler, the top 6, I just realized this, they're all AFC guys.
yeah, I noticed that.
Which is nuts. And I don't think you guys are going to argue that an NFC guy should be above these guys. Maybe you will, but all 6 are in the AFC. Number 6 is Justin Herbert. Number 5 is CJ Stroud. Number 4, Josh Allen. Number 3, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Joe Burrow. And number 1, Patrick Mahomes.
I can't even argue that.
But again, it's based on if I was the GM of an expansion team and they said, take your pick a quarterback for this year, who would you want? That's the order.
I think an important thing to say there with that reasoning is that it's only for 1 year though. So if you're an expansion team that you only get 1 season, imagine
I would take Bryce Young over Aaron Rodgers for career because Aaron Rodgers is going to play 1 more year and then quit. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the first thing that I'll say is, and I'm pretty sure I probably said something exactly similar to this last year. Justin Herbert is too fucking high. I don't know how much more, he's got great measurables. He's got a great arm. He's got great potential argument we can do, especially the fact that he lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Right now, his number 1 receiver is Josh Palmer, who maybe on the Patriots, he would be a number 1 wide receiver. He's not a number 1 wide receiver in the league. So I don't know why Justin Herbert continues to be ranked so high.
Please do not disrespect my dog, Ladd McConkey.
I mean, I like Ladd McConkey a lot. I think that he's a good wide receiver.
That is such a Harbaugh pick. That is
they got Joe Wall, they got Ladd McConkey. I think Ladd McConkey will be and end up being a good receiver, like Wes Welker type, but he's not good enough to be the number 2 wide receiver, basically number 1 wide receiver, A and B going into a season. So especially with a quarterback who's apparently this good. Just looking at your list, I think that Jared Goff had to really prove it to everybody who's doubted him over the past however many years he's been in the league. Last year, they made it to the NFC Championship game. They had the whole Detroit shouting Jared Goff's name, and he's below Justin Herbert, who hasn't won a playoff game and is just a stat king. Phillip Rivers, but not even as good as Phillip Rivers. So I think that he is entirely too high.
I kind of want to go on another 10-minute Joe Burrow rant, but I'm just gonna say we gotta stop fucking.
No, yeah, I know it's not his fault that he got hurt last year, but he's not.
That he gets hurt every year. You mean?
He's not better than Josh Allen, and he's not better than Lamar Jackson, who won MVP last year. I just don't believe it, and I know that he went to a Super Bowl, and those guys haven't. But I don't think that Super Bowl loss continues to put him above those 2 guys. And CJ Stroud might be better than Joe Burrow this year. I'm not saying that right now as we sit in August.
I think Matt Stafford is better than Joe Burrow.
Anytime I say anything bad about Joe Burrow, everyone's response is oh, well, he made it to the Super Bowl. He beat Mahomes. Big whoop. He lost. Okay. Can we get over that now? That was the 1 year he stayed healthy. Yeah. The 1 year he stayed healthy, they made the Super Bowl. But I mean, we're on year 4 of the Joe Burrow experience, or year 3 or 4 on the Joe Burrow experience right now.
And all he's shown us is that, yeah, he's pretty damn good when he's on and when he's healthy, but he's never fucking healthy. And he's not on always. The last 2 seasons or whatever, he's played a combined total of I don't know how many games, and he's looked kind of like, I wouldn't say pedestrian. He's had a couple like shit games, but to pin him as the number 2 quarterback in the NFL above guys like Lamar, like Josh Allen, it's like guys who put the team on their back consistently and carry teams like Matt Stafford, who's just an all-out warrior. I think it's unfair. I think it's disingenuous. I think CJ Stroud is overrated as well. I'm just
agree. I agree with Sam.
How is CJ Stroud overrated?
I think I think it's a Jordan Love situation with him. Yes, he's better than Jordan Love, but I think a lot of people are reacting very heavily to a strong rookie season. And it was the same thing because it was very similar because you heard all fucking from November to January was he's doing this with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Imagine what else he could do. No, those were good fucking receivers. Tank Dell was a steal in the draft. Nico Collins was a very good receiver last year. He had Dalton Schultz at tight end, who was more than proven. He had a new Bobby Slowick offensive coordinator who was just scheming open guys left and right, dicing up defenses. So, yeah, you can't make the argument that he was playing with garbage men, had nothing to work with, and that he had no weapons, and that's why he's so special. Yes, he had a great first year. He won a playoff game. Give him his flowers for that. But otherwise, I think putting other guys lower because of stuff they've done further into their careers it's like I said, it is unfair. And the sample size, I'm a big sample size guy. If you couldn't tell, but Caleb is still 10. That's fine.
Okay, I was gonna say one thing is I'm entirely on the CJ Stroud hype train, and I think that, I mean, although you make some fair points, he did have good weapons and stuff. I think the fact that they were 2-14 or 15.
They had the number 1 pick in the draft.
That's what I'm saying, the number 2 pick in the draft. And then all that changed pretty much is CJ, Will Anderson, and they lost Brandon Cooks, which you could say arguably made them worse. The fact that they went from second pick to second round is I think that just, obviously it's not all because of him, but I think he had a lot to do with that. And that although he does have good players on his team, it's probably not a top wide receiver room in the league. It's not bad like people make it out to be, like he's playing with garbage men, but it's also not, the AFC elite squad either. And I mean, it's also not yes, there's players who have done more because they've played more years, but he did not choose to be born in whenever he was fucking born. He's played one fantastic season coming straight in the league. I think he's rightfully placed, to be honest. And then another thing I was going to say about that is that for Burrow, I think there's no way that he should be ahead of Lamar, but I think you could argue he should be ahead of Josh Allen. I mean, they both had great receiving help. This year, Josh Allen doesn't, but he's always had some pretty decent receivers, and same thing with Burrow. But Burrow has played with, you want to talk about garbage men, that offensive line, especially his first 2 years, was literally like Tommy, Cam, and Jake blocking for him on the outside. That was ridiculous. So I feel like they pretty much had equal roles in their team, and one of them made it to a Super Bowl. And I'm pretty sure Joe went into Buffalo and won, no?
He did.
He did. So in my opinion, I feel like if it was my list, which it's not, so no one really cares, I would go Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Allen. But again, it's not a crazy critique because it's 2, 3, 4,
Building off of what you just said, I think that the top 4 are the top 4, regardless. Whatever order you want to put them in, and obviously Mahomes is one. I think that those 4 guys are the top 4 guys.
Lamar doesn't really win playoff games and stuff like that. But then again, his offense isn't really up to par. Whereas Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase. So at the end of the day, excluding those things, I really do think Joe is he's not better than Lamar Jackson. And then Justin Herbert in general, he has a lot of talent. He just stays in the game. He fights for his team. He makes the right reads, and he has plumbers running routes. The receiver from TCU was dropping passes left and right. He just doesn't have a great offensive core. Austin Eckler was running 10 miles per hour one game for some odd ass reason.
My other thing is I don't understand how Goff, while we were talking about Goff, why is Goff lower than Matt Stafford? He played him in the playoffs, beat him, and I just pulled up their stats a second ago while we were talking. Goff had more yards, more touchdowns. I mean, I think Stafford probably missed a few games, but still, if we're basing it off of that, I mean, he had more yards, more touchdowns. He had one more pick,
Yeah.
and he beat him, and then took his team to the NFC Championship, where they were up by like 17 at one point, and then I mean they fell apart and lost it. But I don't understand what Stafford did. Not that Stafford's a great quarterback all time. He's a great statistical guy. He won a Super Bowl, but just based off like last year and everything, and like who I would take. I mean, one guy went to the NFC Championship and was slinging it around and beat the other guy in the playoffs. So I wouldn't say Stafford didn't.
In Jake's standpoint, like from making the list, it comes down to talent, and you can't really take team projections or team stats or like stuff like that into consideration when, once again, Jared Goff is throwing a fucking Amon St. Ra, and obviously Stafford has Cooper Kupp and Puka, but it's not the same offense capabilities as the Lions are. So like, I could see a world where if Stafford is on the Lions and Goff is on the Rams, Goff would not do the same shit that Stafford is doing on the Rams that he's doing on the Rams. And if Stafford was on the Lions, he would do just as good as Jared Goff, if not better.
I'm glad that we recorded this. I'm pretty sure Cam just said Amon St. Ra. I will love to listen back to this. As cool as Amon Ra St. Brown is, Amon St. Ra.
I hate Amon Ra St. Brown.
What's his brother's name? Like Aquarius St. Ra?
Equanimous Notre Dame alum Cam. Make sure you get it right.
Aquarius Brown or some shit.
And their dad's name was like John.
Yeah. It's nuts.
I forgot who said it, but one of you guys basically said like the top four it was Tommy. The top four is the top four, and just whatever your preference is like who you're gonna have basically at 2, 3, 4. Like there's a lot of people who swear by Josh Allen as the second best quarterback in the NFL. It's just whoever you prefer. Based on what Jake is saying on his criteria, like just going into next year, who do I want to have on my team? In my opinion, outside of Patrick Mahomes, the second best quarterback in the NFL is Lamar Jackson. But I could see why people would say Joe Burrow. I could kind of understand why people would say Josh Allen. I get it. It's because of the playoff success or lack thereof for Lamar. So it's just interesting to hear you guys talk about it. I guess my only grievance with the top 10, I think there's an argument that Stafford is like talent-wise, just pure talent. Like you just want a guy throwing the football. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like Stafford is, I love watching Matthew Stafford. I think he's a great leader. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks ever, and he just doesn't get talked about enough. So I would definitely put both of those guys ahead of Herbert. I guess we'll see with Caleb Williams. We just don't know. Aaron Rodgers, you kind of have to have him in the top 10 because, like, just out of respect, like, he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And, like, you can't not have him in the top 10, even though he's coming off an Achilles injury and he's old as hell. The top 4 is the top 4. You're going to place them how you want based on preference. I personally will have Stafford and Goff ahead of Herbert. I'd probably put Herbert at 8. Rodgers at 9. We'll see with Caleb Williams. So I don't hate the list.
I think Lamar should be 2.
Me too. But there's a lot of people that put Burrow at 2. There's a lot of people that put Allen at 2. Like it's just whoever you think, whoever's your guy.
I just don't think Josh Allen would be good without like the supporting cast that he has.
Yeah, like that's what I was about to say. Like that, the thing that you have to factor in when you're talking about the whole like criteria of if I was starting a franchise right now, who would I pick? It's like if you were starting a franchise right now and you had no wide receivers, Brock Purdy probably wouldn't be at 17. So it's like you kind of have to factor in who they actually have on their team when you're talking about ranking them. So it's like Lamar, in terms of just pure football ability, is probably the second best quarterback. If Joe Burrow didn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, would he be as good as he is? Probably not. And there are all these different factors. And the main one for Josh Allen is he doesn't have Stephon Diggs now. His wide receiver 1 is, I don't even know, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman. Exactly. So it's like, I don't know what that does to Josh Allen, but he is a great football player. I don't know if he's going to be as good as he has been without Stephon Diggs, but clearly the Bills thought that he was going to be good enough to get rid of Stephon Diggs. So, I mean, I don't know. It's all up to what this season entails. But I would agree with Nickson and Cam, like, based off last year, what Lamar did, I think Lamar is 2.
Rodgers is that high. Did him and Kirk have the same injury? Like, wasn't your whole...
Yes.
argument.
Talk about it, Sean.
Yeah, wasn't your whole argument that Kurt's injury and he's old? I mean, that's the same argument for Rodgers. I know Rodgers was better, but that's a significant
Talk about
difference.
it, Sean.
Well,
Like,
what's the
you-
last thing that you just said? I know Rodgers is better. Yeah, that's why I have Rodgers ahead of him.
Not that
What are you
much.
talking about? Yeah, we know he's better.
Here's the
Of
thing,
course.
Jake. Here's the thing, Jake. We haven't seen Rodgers play in fucking forever since he played for the Packers.
I
Like,
know.
there was no reason.
Kind of nuts. He hasn't completed a pass since like Trump was president the first time. I mean, it's kind of nuts to think about. It's weird. No, listen, here's the thing. No, actually, it was what, 2021? No, yeah, it was 2022, and it was the Lions game. They blew okay, I forgot that year. Okay, yeah, no, listen. Here's the because I remember
But the Packers weren't good that year. They were bad.
he won MVP. They blew the Niners playoff game. Then Devontae left, and he was still there.
Who, Rodgers?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
Rodgers,
trying to just
2022.
piece the years together.
He didn't. In all fairness to Rodgers, he didn't really blow that. That was Matt LaFleur that blew that. And as much as I hate Aaron Rodgers, that's saying something.
Well, what, the Lion game or
San Francisco one.
the Niner game? Yeah, well, that would still they lost to Jimmy Garoppolo at home. That was just
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
No, okay, here.
They lost to the 49ers at home. You can plug and play Sam Darnold or any quarterback that's decent in the 49ers system, and they'll be good. Like, that's just
And it was in the snow too in Lambeau, and they only scored like one touchdown. It was pathetic. I remember watching the game thinking to myself, God, they're gonna blow this again. It's ridiculous.
It
But
was like 12. I don't think they scored a touchdown at all.
Rodgers is that high, Jace, just based off of historical success. I've always, and again, I'm a Vikings fan. I've watched Kirk Cousins play for 5 years or whatever. Aaron Rodgers. Also, I remember a couple years with the Packers. He's played on bad calves before. He would always get calf strains. That was always a problem, and he played through it. I trust him more slightly, even though he's older, to play better coming off an injury than Kirk Cousins. And again, look. And listen, he could play this year and look like Peyton Manning looked his last year, where he had like 18 picks and only 9 touchdowns. And yeah, if he falls off a cliff, I could be dead wrong. But I'm just going off of the arm talent, and
he was also allegedly like going to come back last year if the Jets were in playoff contention. So
who knows how accurate?
No, that wasn't gonna. That was never.
Who
gonna
knows how accurate that is?
he might
I do
be
think
like ready to go.
From all accounts, he's healed. He's recovered. With Kirk Cousins, like he's taking reps. I think the Aaron Rodgers isn't playing in the preseason like just because he doesn't want to. Is Kirk Cousins not playing in the Yeah, I think there's still like precautions with Kirk Cousins as far as how much contact can he take. I'm not sure about that, so don't quote me. But and again, Sean, he's 9th. Like Aaron Rodgers has been 1 or 2 his whole career until his last year with Green Bay. So I have Jared Goff ahead of him. He's not that high. I mean, but just quickly a little snippet.
Really, right before you do that, Jake, last year, just because you just said it, last year you had Aaron Rodgers at 7, which was 1 place below Trevor Lawrence and 2 places below Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and now he's slightly above.
Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence were never better than Aaron Rodgers. Never will be, never have been. Ever.
Herbert was better the last year that Rodgers played. Like that
Herbert's really good. He's just on a terrible team.
That last year they both played. Herbert was better. No, listen. First of all, okay, I'm going to go through it quickly. It sounds like everyone was pretty okay with my Caleb Williams already being the 10th best quarterback in the league. I love that. Here's just
I completely agree with the Caleb pick. I mean,
here's just a little sneaky prediction here. And again, if you look at my list, and even if you think really highly of Goff or Stafford, I think you'll agree with me, guys. I think by Thanksgiving we might look up and say Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the NFC. In the NFC, that's what I'm saying.
My ears.
Now that's just because, by the way, I don't have a ton of respect for the NFC. I don't think like any of their teams really bounce off the page and impress me. Like I think the best team, like all the guys on the roster is the Lions. But am I really going to risk my?
I think the Lions are better than the 49ers, actually.
Or
with Ayuk barely on the team and Trent Williams not even practicing. Yeah. I don't think I think the Niners are maybe due for a Super Bowl hangover. They had the lead in overtime of a Super Bowl and lost. That is devastating. They led in overtime and lost.
Just being respectful to the roster that they have in place, I think the 49ers are still the number one team in the NFC. I know that the whole Trent Williams situation is what it is. I don't know how that's going to resolve itself, but I assume that it will. I think that the Lions are the second best team, but the 49ers are still the number one team to me. And I'm pretty sure by all betting odd accounts, they are the number one team in the NFC. So
yeah, no, again, it's because they play Arizona and Seattle twice. They're probably most likely to get the number one seed. But again, Caleb's 10th, from what I saw in college, I think he's very underrated at playing in the pocket. He wasn't asked to. He was asked because their coach doesn't know what, like tackling is, and they were giving up 80 points a game. Caleb, like, we need you to score every drive or else we're cooked. And of course, he ran around and he made a bunch of wow throws. I think he'll play better in the pocket this year than people think. Aaron Rodgers is ranked that high because of who he's been historically. And I don't know what the Jets are going to be this year. I think they could win 12 games. I think they could win 6, and Aaron Rodgers could get hurt again, and that might be the end of his career. I have no idea, but I thought 9th was a good spot for him. The issue with Jared Goff, he's a little Tua-ish. He needs a dome and a great offensive line and perfect conditions. That's why I was hesitant to put him above Herbert. Yes, he's accomplished more. He's been to a Super Bowl when he played for the Rams, NFC title game last year. But I feel like just ignoring Herbert's freakish talent and arm strength, well, that's not everything. It's important. I would trust him more than Jared Goff if I'm going to build a team around somebody, because I feel like he can overcome, again, like bad coaching. He had Brandon Staley and got to the playoffs, where you see Jared Goff needs a Sean McVay or a Dan Campbell to be successful. I know you guys said that you'd probably have Jared Goff slightly ahead of Herbert. That's fair. I'm just, Herbert's talent is going to win me over. Stafford, by the way, I think, Coby, you mentioned like Stafford and Goff stats. The issue, maybe if I'm prisoner of the moment from one game, I watched Goff and Stafford play in that playoff game. And I know that Goff won, but I thought Stafford was the best quarterback on the field that day. Like, he got concussed. Remember the shot where like his eyes were wide open and then he bounces right back up. He threw for like 350 and 3 touchdowns. I was like,
oh, that was a crazy shot.
Like this, and again, Cooper Kupp had one of the best seasons ever for a receiver. Now
decline.
He's on the downturn. And Stafford, is Puka really that great, or was Stafford just slicing and dicing last year and making Puka become a household name in the league? That's why I have Stafford slightly ahead. Herbert, again, the arm talent, I have him at 6. CJ Stroud, I broke my rule. I have a rule. This was my rule with Jalen Hurts. If you want me to consider you elite, you got to give me 2 years of elite production. 2. Like I said, Hurts has given me 1. Trevor Lawrence has only given me 1. CJ Stroud was great last year. I usually want to see it twice, but he had a defensive head coach. Sam was talking how Tank Dell's a great football player, and so is Collins, the other receiver. I think CJ Stroud deserves the majority.
Nobody was saying that going into last year.
Yeah,
yes, they were. Yes,
he blew me away. And
no, they weren't.
Yes,
also,
they were.
The Browns' defense last year, by some accounts, was historically great, and he had damn near a perfect passer rating in that playoff game. He won me over. Josh Allen, 4th. I went to the Bills-Dolphins game last year, the last game of the regular season. There are some throws that Josh Allen makes where this guy's the greatest football player ever. And there are some throws
that game was your whole season, Cam.
And there are some throws Josh Allen makes where it's like, is this dude a high school quarterback? I've never seen it both ends of the spectrum, how dumb some of the decisions are that he makes. So I put him at 4th because he's a lot of time. Of course, he's the reason they win, but a lot of times he's the reason they lose when he has fumbles and picks like crazy. And the 3 guys ahead of him, I trust to be more poised and consistent in the bigger moments. You guys know that Lamar is my favorite player. This is an objective list.
This is a little fucked up for you.
That's why I said, because it's like,
I think that's why you put him lower.
Whoever.
No, I want to put him first. What are you talking about?
We can let Nickson talk. Sorry, I interrupted you.
People say the same thing about like a guy like James Harden, where it's like, this might be the best player in the NBA, but like he just doesn't have the playoff success. So like,
it's not even the playoff success for me with Lamar. I know that he's capable of playing well in the play. He played great against Houston. He played great a week before the bad game. It's like, okay, we're just going to forget he had 4 touchdowns against Houston. But Joe Burrow went into Arrowhead and beat Mahomes and outplayed him. I mean, like, I
Lamar
got
lost at home. Like, it's just, it is what
I
it
got to
is.
give the dude credit. And on top of that, too, like with the injury concern about Burrow, it's really crazy to think about this. 2020, Joe Burrow blew out his knee, missed the rest of the year. 2021, I think Lamar had a bone bruise.
Yeah,
He
in his
missed
knee.
the second half of the year. 2022, he was hurt, but kind of holding out for the contract. He missed the second half of the year. 2023, last year, Burrow, like, so, and last year was Burrow was out the second half of the year. They both, one of them the last 4 years has missed the second half of the year. They both have a little bit of an injury problem. Burrow's is a little more severe because the ACL is very severe, and he had the Achilles scare, and then like he broke his weird bone in his wrist. That was weird. But they both are not perfect.
He still is not 100%, by the way.
Like when it comes to
Burrow?
injuries.
Yeah.
I just trust Burrow more in a big playoff game against the guy that's ranked number 1.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and you can't argue that because it's the proof is in the pudding. It's happened. He went.
I will say though, it's interesting when Lamar and Burrow play each other though.
Oh, Lamar looks like 10 times better. It's ridiculous.
That's the thing, which is interesting. But
when Lamar plays Kenny Pickett.
Yes, that's that. Okay, well, Kenny Pickett did not make this list. I don't think it's Pickett, by the way. I think Tomlin and TJ Watt just know how to deal with it.
TJ Watt and
yeah, I don't think Kenny Pickett's putting any fear into those guys.
Yeah. So, and again, it's a slight margin. I think we all agree those are the top 4.
Yeah.
And, but also quickly, just to show you how much of a gap this is, and this isn't going to happen. I'm just saying for perspective. If the Bengals or the Ravens or the Bills go undefeated this year and break all the records, and they're unanimous MVPs for Burrow, Lamar, or Allen, and they beat the Chiefs by 5 touchdowns in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl, I still have Mahomes first for next year. He's earned that. He's got 3 rings. Last year he had a bunch of backup receivers he was throwing to. It was absurdly impressive.
It's turning into Tom Brady again.
He is firmly number 1. It will be very hard for anyone, but I guess the only guy who could surpass Mahomes is CJ Stroud because he's so young and he's on a dynastic run, which I don't expect. I'm just
like
saying.
The thing though, even just like saying that, and it's completely a ridiculous comparison, but like Mahomes has made the AFC Championship game every year he's been a starter. CJ Stroud was rookie last year. He had an incredible rookie season. He didn't make the AFC Championship game. So it's like even that. Let's just like Mahomes is far and away number 1, which is why I think so many people were upset with the players ranking having him at 4. It's just like Mahomes is the best player in the NFL, regardless of, how annoying his voice might be or how annoying his wife might be or how annoying his brother might be. Like it is what it is. He is that guy. So I think that honestly, Jake, your top 10 list is pretty solid. I don't know about the whole, like, maybe we're wrong about Caleb being 10. Maybe we're too like biased about him being that high, and he has all these weapons, but he's still a rookie. And we've got guys like Jalen Hurts, Dak, Jordan Love, all these guys in the 12 to 18 range who have like proven it year after year that they're, at that mid to high level. But I do think that your top 10 is pretty good. So shout out you, Jake.
Yeah, it was a solid list. I think you got in your own head a little bit. But
Sam, I have your quarterback ranked 10th. How dare you? The audacity. So who would you guys
What
rank?
What good is it for any viewer if I go on here and I'm like, yep, it's perfect top 20. You got to give.
Is there somebody who's not ranked in the top 10 who you guys think should be?
Dak.
I mean, there's an argument to be made about Jalen Hurts. I know saying he had a fall off, but you could argue Jalen Hurts is a top 10.
Look, I don't love him by any stretch. And I probably, if you go back and watch every single show that we did last year, I probably would be considered a hater. But Brock Purdy is probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, just purely based on stats.
No, he's on stats. He's like top 3.
Like it. I mean, he was MVP candidate last year. I don't think that it's entirely just based off of his ability or talent or anything like that. But if you're ranking quarterbacks who you'd like to have based on stats, then he probably is top 10. But again, I do like your list. I think that your top 10 is solid. I think that Jared Goff should be higher. I think Justin Herbert should be lower. But other than that, I mean, CJ Stroud is a hard one to judge just because of how good he was as a rookie. Is he going to be able to replicate that in his second year? I'm not sure, but it's hard to judge. So I like your list.
Only thing I don't like the people saying are Herbert. I'm high on Herbert too, Jake. I know you got a lot of hate for that, but I think Herbert's a very accountable quarterback, someone who fights through injuries. I remember one game, I don't know who the fuck he was playing, but he got hit in the ribs bad. Like he was literally holding his ribs. He drove the garbage ass Chargers all the way down and scored a touchdown. I was like, wow, this dude is him.
I'm really big on Herbert too. I think like what we were saying earlier, like just straight talent wise, like take wins and losses, playoff success, accolades. Like Justin Herbert's one of those guys where when you just watch him play, you're like, that guy has like the talent of a top 10 quarterback. But then when you add in all the other stuff, it starts, maybe he's not. But just straight like who's throwing the rock and who's slinging the football, he's definitely up there. And also I like him because he never makes the world will be crumbling around him. Slater's hurt. Keenan Allen gets hurt. All the Eckler, everyone gets hurt. Something happens. His ribs are broken, and you never hear him saying anything. But you don't hear him say anything at all. He's really not a media presence, which I like. Even had some tough breaks. What do you say?
Brandon Staley going for it on 4th and 15.
That's what I'm saying. It's 4th and 35 in the first quarter on their own 17. They're going for it. Like
he was like, "Fuck it,
I was a huge
I did kind of like Brandon Staley in that
regard.
Started doing that. Like he knew he was gonna get canned, but he just didn't care. It was like
he made it exciting. He made it so much fun. It's just like if you were on that team, you definitely wanted to fucking die.
That was hilarious. So he was like, they asked him, they were like, "Do you know if you're gonna be the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers next week?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then they got like blown out in prime time.
Brandon Staley walked so Dan Campbell could run.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He was the first one. 4th and 10 with a minute left. We're down 3. We can tie the game. No, we're fucking going. I love it.
Analytics, man.
What I would do if I was a coach. It's like Madden. Just send it.
Yeah, Herbert should have a good season. I don't know.
Herbert has 0 wide receivers, and they also lost Jared Everett to the Bears. So
listen, he's got a great coach. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in his top 10 that are gonna have a regression season.
all right, hey, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.